Hello everybody, it's Miriam here on Writer's Block, and I'm absolutely delighted to have with me today our very special guest, who is Siobhan, nice Irish name, Siobhan Daniels, and she's a guest with us today who has her own Thursday 6 o'clock IGTV show on Instagram. It's called Siobhan Siobhan, and she has wonderful guests on the show, and I was absolutely delighted when I found her on Instagram because I instantly recognized her because I lived in Canterbury for 6 years, and I said, that lady, I've seen her on the BBC Southeast. So she was a producer, presenter. We're going to talk to her in a lot more detail now in just a few minutes. But for those of you who are coming to our show for the first time on YouTube, Writer's Block with Miriam started in June, and I'm delighted to be able to say that we've got a great lineup of guests again. And just to give you an idea of who we had with you last year, we started off direct from India with Trainee, author of Kaleidoscopes, and she is also a teacher trainer. She has founded this incredible school called Footpath for all the children who are, let's say, less advantaged in the area where she now lives back in India. Wonderful person, had her on the show, and she's a personal friend of mine. I was delighted to have her on. We also had from Canada Maureen Jennings, author of Murdoch Mysteries, all the novels, the 7 novels, the films. She's also a writer on the television series as well. She's the creative consultant. I was delighted to have her on, and very interestingly, she was she was a psychologist all her life. So I'm absolutely delighted to have her on, and I just think it's great to have her there. So if I can also just bring to your attention that this particular season, we're going to be looking at identity. And this is where our special guest comes in, because she's not only was she a nurse in her early years, but she's also someone who has brought all her talents to the table when it comes to campaigning against ageism. So can I welcome to the show a wonderful woman, direct from the UK, in her motorhome, doing fantastic work, Siobhan Daniels. You're very welcome to the show.
Yay, it's fabulous to be here. Lovely to talk to you. And yes,
and I tell you, that motorhome looks great.
Thank you. I'm in the middle of a field, which is beautiful.
Where in the UK are you parked right now?
I'm on the North Norfolk coast.
Oh, beautiful.
I've never been here before I got stuck here in lockdown. And I've got to know it very well, and it's an absolutely beautiful part of the countryside. I'm near Blakeney and Clay next to the sea, and Wells next to the sea, and it's just so beautiful. I've done lots of walks and cycle rides.
Well, that is yeah, it's a gorgeous area. I remember when I first went to live in the United Kingdom. I mean, we're broadcasting today from Ireland, but I spent quite a long time, about 9 years, living in the United Kingdom. Started off in Yorkshire, then Luton, then Canterbury. You're from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Yorkshire lass.
Yay.
Whereabouts in Yorkshire?
I was born in Leeds.
Oh yes, yeah, I know Leeds very well, very, very well. And I can remember going to see various different consultants there too. You had, when you started your career, if I read correctly, your background was it 11 years in nursing?
No, 9 years. I started August 77 as a student nurse, and then I got appendicitis after a week. I had my appendix out. I thought I'll just try it out first.
See what the surgeons are like.
Yeah, and some of them were nice. So I had my appendix out, and then I started again in October 77. So I started training in October 77.
And what brought you? What brought you to nursing at that time?
My mother was a nurse, and my father, who was born in Clonmel.
Oh, lovely.
He came over to England to train to be a nurse at St James's in Leeds, and he met my mum, and they got married and had 8 children and bought an old people's home. So I grew up with 8 children and 10 old ladies in this old people's home. So it's kind of, I've always been around that caring and nurturing. So it just seemed the next step when I left school was to go and be a nurse. And I trained at the same hospital they did, at St. James's.
Oh, really? Oh, that is extraordinary, isn't it? Now, like you're working right now. We'll cover the various things that you did, but when you think back to those days as a young woman, how do you feel that nursing informed the rest of your career? Did it have any kind of an input?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I think sometimes when I became a journalist and I'd get awkward people, I used to think I've given enemas to better people than you. And it also grounds you because you think we're all going to end up in the same place. We're all going to end up dead.
Yes.
And it's taught me it's how you treat other people, how you behave with other people is what you get back in life. And I think particularly in the media, when I went to be a journalist, I've met some obnoxious characters, both in newsrooms and as guests. And I just want to say to them, just go and spend a week working in intensive care. Go and see the pain of the families and everything. And that will give you a perspective on what life is about. And that's what so yes, it has helped me a lot. But I also left nursing and did a year as a pharmaceutical rep.
Oh.
And that gave me a grounding into the cutthroat world that's out there, which I worked for an American company, Knapp Laboratories, and I'd never seen people be quite so cutthroat in the sales industry. And I realized it wasn't for me. You know, I couldn't do that because I think I'm more of a caring person.
Yes, yes. Marketing, media, all these very cutthroat industries. I understand exactly what you're talking about because I've experienced a certain amount of it myself. And for a while, I think you feel obliged to kind of soldier on and push through, don't you? But then there can come a time where you feel, I don't really think that I can be in this toxic environment much longer.
Yeah.
You know, I need to move on to something else. And did you find that an easy thing to do? I mean, when it came to going into media, how did that come about?
Well, actually, when I was a pharmaceutical rep, I got pregnant with my daughter, Sammy, who is just the best person in the world. But I got pregnant with Sammy. And so whilst I was pregnant, I taught myself to type because I knew I didn't want to go back to be a pharmaceutical rep.
Yes.
So I did my typing exams and I passed my typing exams when I was pregnant. And I applied for a job at the local radio station just as a receptionist on a Saturday morning and a Monday. And somebody looked after my baby for me. And whilst I was doing that, and I was a rubbish receptionist, by the way, I kept cutting off. People would be saying in the news, who's that idiot on reception downstairs? But I heard the advertisement come up for the BBC Trainee Reporter Scheme. And I applied for that, and 7,500 people applied, and we had 2 days of interviews and tests and things, and I got one of the 26 places.
Wow.
I know, I was really pleased, but also at the same time, my partner then had a couple of affairs, and I could see the writing on the wall.
Yes.
It was either go back and be a part-time nurse, as a single mother, or take this chance. And I had the support of family and friends, and I went off and did a year's training with the BBC, did my law exams and shorthand and things, and became a radio journalist.
So you were becoming very driven even at this stage. And I suppose also having had your daughter, that would have brought that out in you too. I've got to provide, I've got to think ahead now. I can't just settle for things.
More so it was survival mode. It was looking, because I love traveling. I've always traveled a lot. Even from before I started my nursing, I went to Sicily and lived there for 6 months waiting to start my nursing. And even when I was nursing in between courses, I'd get a job at another hospital and take 3 months off and go traveling in India. So I'd always done it. But all of a sudden I thought, I need to be a grown up. I've got a baby. I'm going to be on my own. I need to find something that I want to do and where I can earn a good salary and look after her. And so getting the job at the BBC was just brilliant for me.
I'm sure it was. And of course, that would have been in the days when the jobs were a lot more secure as well.
Yeah.
But there would have been a price as well, I suppose, if you were a woman working in that industry.
I think I was quite lucky because the people that got on the BBC trainee reporter schemes were, we got a good salary, we were treated well, you know, you were kind of like, you'd achieved something to get on one of those training schemes. So I really enjoyed my time, you know, on the training scheme and then working at the various radio stations. The only problem was in those days, the BBC thought it was a good idea to send you to the furthest radio station away from where you lived. So you
Yes.
got being in an alien environment and seeking out the stories. So I was
Yes.
having to leave my daughter a lot
Yes.
whilst I was training, and I found that heart-wrenching. But it was worth it. It was worth it in the end.
I can imagine. And just moving it forward a little bit there, then you have this career, which was what, how many years? Was it 30 years that you were in the BBC?
I did 10 years in local radio, working at various stations, Leeds, Sheffield, Cleveland, and Radio Humberside. I actually had my own program at Radio Humberside for a while. I presented, but I really wanted to get into television. And so I applied for a job in television when they established their very first digital newsroom in Kent. I didn't even know where Tunbridge Wells was, but I applied for this job and I got it.
Yeah.
So
I know, and you were excellent. I do. I remember you. I remember you very, very well. I know that woman's face. As soon as I saw you on Instagram, I said, I remember her. You know, I have to talk to this lady. So now the trigger. You retired. Is it 2 years ago that you retired from the BBC? Is it that yet, or is it 18?
Yeah, it's coming up to 2 years. It was my last working day was in the July. So we're in March, April, May, June. Yeah, another 3 months and it'll be 2 years.
Wow, how time flies. Isn't that extraordinary? Now, what was the trigger exactly for this campaign that you've really taken to your heart against ageism, women in the workplace? What were the triggers? What really brought that out as your main passion right now?
Well, I think my personal experiences within the workplace of feeling bullied, feeling marginalized the older I got, feeling that I didn't have a voice, that once I'd reached 50. When I was in my mid-40s, I had precancerous cells of the cervix and I had to have a hysterectomy, and my ovaries out, and I dive bombed into the menopause.
Yes.
And it was just a horrendous time for me. I didn't realize what impact it would have on my body and my mind, and I lost my confidence. I started feeling really angry. I wasn't sleeping, all those kind of things.
Yes.
And I got no help from work, no help at all. I was just treated like the mad old woman. And so it was that really. And then I managed to get a gap year. I thought, I can't cope, I can't do this. I'm not going to be treated, you know, in this ageist manner and being bullied by my boss. And I managed to get a gap year off work when my daughter went to university, just before I was 50. So I was 49. And I packed a rucksack and went around the world on my own for a year.
My goodness, how exciting.
I don't do things by halves.
No, you don't.
But during that time, I really reflected and became angry about how I felt older women were being treated in the workplace, and women going through the menopause were being treated in the workplace. And at the same time, I was traveling around the world and meeting up with youngsters in their 20s and 30s who were, I felt ageless. I felt like I wasn't put in a little box like society wants you to be. And so I remember lying on a beach in Fiji, like you do, in my hammock, and just thinking, when I retire, I am going to champion the fact about ages. I'm going to stop ageist attitudes. We're all aging. From the day we're born, we're all aging, and we're all to die.
Exactly.
And I didn't want anti-aging. I wanted pro-aging. I wanted to embrace life. I wanted to age disgracefully. So all these thoughts were sort of in my head. And then when I came back from my gap year and I thought, I can cope with all this, the bullying from my boss got worse at work. It was horrendous. As it happened, he was then moved a bit later on as a result of it, but the impact on me was horrendous. And I just thought, I'm not going to have this about ageism and menopause and bullying in the workplace. So as I went towards retirement, I started formulating this plan that I was going to buy a motorhome and travel around and write about it and actually put my money where my mouth was. And
you know, this is what I loved about you when I saw your Instagram, because actually in 2005, when I made the decision to move back from, I lived in Hawkinge. There was a big, I don't know if you know the big motorhome caravan centre there. They're one of the big sellers in the southeast.
Look at some of them.
I thought to myself, I think I might do the same thing. I'm going to sell the house, and I think I will buy a motorhome, and I'll drive back to Dublin, drive back to Drogheda. And I chickened out, and you've done it. This is the great, you've actually done it.
But that was the thing in work. As it got nearer and nearer to me retiring, people started coming up to me saying, you're really going to do this, aren't you? And I'm going, yeah, I am. I'm going to fight. But at the same time, I was becoming disillusioned with society. Yes. That I felt strongly that people were just burning out. And I thought, people are running around to earn money, to buy stuff they don't need. And because they're working such long hours, they can't see family and friends. And it's just crazy.
So and how right you were, because I mean, look at what's happened in the last, you were absolutely on the money with that. What are we all discovering now? We're discovering that we can actually survive on less. We need
and luckily I wrote about it. So it's not something I'm just saying now. I wrote about it at the beginning. And I also felt that, I put my money where my mouth was there. So I got rid of my flat. I got rid of most of my things, and some of my belongings are with Maggie, my sister-in-law, in her garage, but I've got rid of most of my things and bought a motorhome to show that I can also live with very little and be happy with very little. And it took me a while to get used to it, but I am happy with very little.
Yes, yeah, and the other thing is that it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. This had been coming for some time, hadn't it?
Yes, yeah, it definitely had. And it was something that I felt I was a lone voice in the wind, and I was talking about it and saying about, I wanted to challenge stereotypes as well of what people presumed retired pensioners did. And I was getting more and more angry with newspapers like The Guardian writing incredible articles about ageism. And then you'd suddenly see crinkly old hands with a walking stick.
Yes, the graphics. Yeah.
Who are aging to just bodily parts.
I totally agree with you. And I remember when I first came home and I hadn't realized just how ill, even though I was on the phone every day to my mother, I hadn't any idea of just how bad the situation was with her. She had Alzheimer's. But in those early days when she had to go to basically a geriatric center up not too far away, when she walked into the waiting rooms, she was immediately very offended by the posters on the wall, which used words like elderly and showed wrinkly old people on sticks and what have you. Not that I've been on a stick when I've injured myself. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. But, it's the graphics around this discussion can be so negative and so not at all identifying with you and your true identity, and the whole concept of being older. I think I often wonder at times, do we get in our own way? Because I certainly have. I have a girlfriend. I'm 56, so I've just finished the menopause, and I went through 4 years of hell, and I know exactly what you mean. When it comes to, and I didn't use HRT because I have a problem with medications. I'm allergic to antibiotics and lots of things. So I haven't been able to take antibiotics since 2005, and I am careful. So I deliberately didn't take the HRT, but it did mean that it was an extremely rocky road, not cushioning the fall.
I still take it now. I rub it in my arm every morning.
Oh, I know. And I'd love to be able to do it, only it just won't work for me. So that was a road I just had to go down. And I felt, talking to friends at times, they either They either were totally on board and sympathetic with you, or they dismissed it. They didn't want to talk about it. So there's still an awful lot of that. A lot of women who want to do Superwoman. I'm Superwoman. This doesn't. I sailed through the menopause. Yeah. I sailed through it. It didn't matter. And then you've got others who will tell you this was absolute hell. And I must be honest. I saw your interview with Tracy Tate on menopause policy. Very, very good interview. Anyone watching, please go and have a look at that interview. It's an exceptional interview on menopause. And if you're a manager, have a look at it.
It's Siobhan Daniels on Instagram.
It's Siobhan Daniels, yeah, on Instagram. And her guest was Tracy Tate. And really, my big problem in the place that I was working in was it was one of those great big old mills, you know, the old mills that you are converted into office space and sometimes apartments. And you go, they're maybe 12 stories high. Classrooms on the very top of a school in a place like that are very difficult for someone to get to if they're going through menopause or if they've any kind of, mobility issue. But you are so tired and your muscles aren't working for you the same way. A simple thing like asking for your classroom to be changed to a lower floor, it doesn't cost money to do that. It just means thinking and organizing. And also, as was said in that interview, and I thought it was very important, this won't last forever.
Yeah. But I know when I was working in the newsroom and it's, the pressure's on and you've got to be on the ball, sometimes I just have like that cotton wool head.
Yes.
I'd have to go and take myself off to the loo and just sit there and just regroup again because I felt I was going crazy, but it was just the menopause. And I was only a 15-minute walk to work and back again. But I went through about 6 months where I literally had to get a taxi home at the end of work because I was so exhausted.
Yes.
I was trudging through treacle. It was awful.
Yeah.
And I thought there was something physically wrong with me. And that's why women should talk about it more.
Yes.
I sailed through it, I'm fine. Some people have good experiences, some people have bad experiences, and it is part of nature. But I think if we all talk about it, we can help each other go through it, whatever way we're going through it.
Yes, because what's happened through the years is that, I suppose it happens in the medical profession too, which is strange because really they're dealing with health, but they still have this issue that professionalism becomes very sanitized. And there are certain things from your personal life that you cannot bring up. And whereas my career was as a professional singer, my fallback career was teaching, and it was always a great fallback career, language teacher. And when you're dealing with language, you have to give people the vocabulary and the phrases that they need to talk about their work. And that means opening up discussions. But this kind of discussion was forever closed, whether it was in a classroom. And I mean, I was teaching adults. This was forever closed. It was something that everybody, if you tried to introduce it as part of the health issue discussion, in an English language class to adults, they wouldn't go there. So then having to talk about it to my boss was very difficult because I know this is, again, just before, this would have been 2019. I had to sit down with my director of studies and I had to say, look, I am having some issues here. I am going through extreme fatigue and this is what's happening. And they tried to be very sensitive, but you could see the embarrassment. You could see they didn't know, oh God, where do I go with this, discussion. Yeah. So finding the language to actually help them. Now you would think in a language school, this might be slightly easier for us, but it wasn't. It is very difficult to find the language. This is why I thought that interview was very interesting with Tracy, because she has thought about this and come at it from that angle.
Yeah, but even if they've got the language, sometimes the bosses choose not to use it. My boss in particular, he was like a shark circling. He could see that I was floundering and there was something wrong and I wasn't the usual me.
And ready, yeah.
Instead of calling me in and saying, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? How can we help you? And me being able to have that discussion, which he should have had, he just did everything to break me so that I would leave. And I was a strong woman, so I fought it right to the end and was able to retire with dignity. And he went before I did. But I just think those discussions do need to be had. But that's again like why I'm doing ageism, because I think ageism in the workplace and menopause in the workplace, the two going side by side, there is a wave of women now getting the discussion going about the menopause, but I think we also need to do it in the workplace. It's not acceptable, and the younger women in the workplace need to be the ones to start addressing it, not when you get to 50 plus and in that era, because you're treated like, oh, the whingy old woman who never quite made it.
I know.
I have that discussion with the younger ones and tried to engage with them before I retired, saying, look, you are going to be that 40 something, 50 something, 60 something year old woman in the workplace. You need to make sure that it doesn't happen, because it's going to happen to you. Don't wait.
Yes. And if any of them have been pregnant and went through that awful phase that some people go through of, I can remember standing in front of someone and listening to them, and by the time they reached the end of a sentence, I couldn't remember what the beginning of the sentence was, and the thing is, that can go on for 4 years if you've got menopause.
Go on for a lot longer.
It's
for really a lot longer.
But then, as you have said on your programs, what is it? 87% of women who are of the age I am and you are more creative than they've ever been. So, this is a temporary situation.
Yeah.
But it can be a temporary situation, which very sadly can be used by employers to kind of shove people out the door. And we're now living in a time where practically every job is a contract job and it's not a permanent job. So you feel more, you feel more reticent about saying anything or having the wrong information in your mind go out about you. And it is that makes it very, very difficult to have these discussions. But collectively, with people like yourself, interviewing the right people, getting the message out there that there is a whole cohort of people who want to get the message out and who want to support you and who want to make this a professional priority within a company. You have to do that.
And I think COVID has been great for this, because people have been locked down. Tribes of women have kind of got together on Instagram and Twitter and realize a lot of us feel the same about this ageism and the menopause. And the thing about ageism is I want to work towards changing the images that are out there to represent women who are aging and who are getting older. We're all doing all sorts of things like mountain climbing, kayaking or whatever, or just walking, whatever, but the images don't reflect how people are aging now.
Exactly.
Also, the narrative around aging. Yes. I don't want anti-aging cream.
No.
I'm aging. I'm not anti-aging. I'm proud to age.
I'm proud of it. Exactly. I mean, this is not blonde hair. This is grey. This is grey hair. I'm not going to put colour in again.
Yeah, but my sister died at 53. My brother died at 53. My dad died at 50. And it's like, I'm 62 this year. I am so blessed that I can age and that I'm here to age.
Exactly.
And enhance my aging.
I totally agree with you.
And also, when people say old, I want to go into schools and talk to youngsters. If I say the word old to them, what springs to mind? And it's all negative terminology.
Yes.
And we need to think of old as something exciting, adventurous. It's something in cultures like India and China.
Yes.
They listen to the wisdom and things that they've got to offer. Here, when you're old, you're written off and you're marginalized.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The Japanese, exactly the same thing. They have great respect for anyone who's lived into their 80s, and it's a huge topic. And when I look at social media, I mean, this is this awful love-hate situation that we have today, where we are all on social media, but we hate a lot of the ads coming through, which are all anti-aging, and to get that wave of pro-aging images, discussions, the message out there that it is not a bad thing to age. What you have to do is make sure that you take care of your body.
Yeah.
Yes. Make sure that you don't get too overweight. Make sure that you keep well. But that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And age in a way that's appropriate to you.
Yes.
if you're 64, you do things that, you know, if you're 64 and you're really, really fit, then do things. If you're 64 and feeling a bit more infirm, then do other things. But my mum's old people's home, they used to take women at 60 and men at 65. So I'd be in an old people's home now.
I know.
I'm going around in a motorhome. I'm hoping to climb the 3 Yorkshire Peaks later this year. You know, I've got all kinds of challenges. I want to learn paddleboarding as well as soon as I get moving about. There's all sorts of things I want to do. But
Exactly.
I've been sat in a nursing home, so we're aging differently.
Yeah, I agree with you. And how often we see that, you know, you see people who've gone to 90, 91 years of age. And if they had realized when they were younger that they were going to be this physically well or mentally well or able, they might have planned their life a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And this does happen, you know, it's, so where are we now, do you think? What do you think will be, can you project into the future on these issues now post-pandemic? What do you hope will be the future?
I think there's a good possibility of cosmetic companies and fashion industries listening to what's being said on social media. There's already creams that are put out there as pro-aging. There's a lot of this phrase I'm seeing popping up now.
So changing the language.
Yeah, and there's also fashion companies. There's one called the Bias Cut, and they're very much about making clothing for older people, because when you age, you don't beige. And if you notice, a lot of the clothes are drab when you get past a certain age and you go into big department stores or you go shopping. I've been with my daughter and I've been into sort of what they call age appropriate shops. And she's got, no, mum, no, come out, get out. You know, you're not wearing that. And so there are fashion industries now. There's a few clothing companies who are trying to make fashion a bit better. And also architecture. If you go into shops where women need, or women or men need the accessories for getting in and out of the bath, you know, the handles, or to pick things up, you go in the shop and it's all greys and browns.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Yucky. So there are a lot of competitions now for younger architects and people in the technical services to design things.
Yes.
And some youngsters came up with something that are plant pot holders outside. So it just looks like plant pot holders as opposed to these grey railings they used to have before.
A wonderful idea. A wonderful idea. Absolutely.
And it doesn't make the person who's the elderly person walking into the house feel, oh, I need these, you know, they can look at the flowers as they're going in. So, you know, it's quality of life and how we interpret aging.
It is, yes. And sometimes, like, you can be very surprised that you still have a talent that goes, I mean, and I'm not praising myself or anything here, don't get the wrong idea. But as a singer, I know people in my life whose voices at 56, 57 have started to go. They've, unfortunately, that particular, you know, you're using flesh and blood, you're using vocal cords to produce this thing that is so, you know, very much part of your identity. And sometimes it goes early, you know, sometimes the voice just disappears. I expected something similar to happen, but then to my surprise, that didn't happen. And the voice is still there and it's still strong. And when I started to go back out on the road there a couple of years ago, I had some friends who were saying, yeah, but that was then, that was your career then. Why are you doing it now? And I said, well, look, you know, I've enjoyed dipping into teaching every now and then, but do I look forward to doing it? No. Who am I? That identity as a singer is still there. Yeah, but at your age.
Well,
really?
What I mean, this is it. This is what I mean about changing the narrative surrounding aging. What do they mean at your age? As if you're suddenly supposed to stop doing things.
That's it. Yeah.
I think,
as though the stage is only for the younger face.
Yeah, but when you've had the menopause, I think, and you get to a certain age and you retire, it's a kickstart to a whole new life. And you can do what you want to do. And
totally agree.
Do it and go where you want to go if you're lucky, you know, financially or whatever. But I mean, I don't have much money. I'm only living off my pension. I've made that lifestyle choice to live it up when I was working and not save it. But I don't need much to live the life, and I'm so happy. And I'm doing what I want to do. And if you want to get up and sing, go and sing.
I know, but this is it. This is it. And you do have to kind of harness your confidence and your experience, don't you? Because your confidence takes a hit with the menopause. You realize that you've got to make a decision to stand on your own. And if you're very lucky and you've got a daughter and you've got friends around you, and thank God I do have Colm, my husband, who's very very on board with this kind of thing, then that's great. So many women don't have that. And I do think we have to be there for each other. I really do think we need to connect up and support each other.
That's my biggest thing. I'm always doing hashtag women supporting women. And I do very much try and promote women and give, that's what I'm trying to do. I do Instagram lives on a Thursday at 6 o'clock, and I do them with interesting women to talk to, because I want to give a platform for women to be heard.
Absolutely.
About the menopause, about the challenges that they're doing. And I've got this sweatshirt on that goes, say yes more. It's all about saying yes more to things. And this is a tribe of people I've got to meet on the internet. If you check out on Facebook, say yes more.
Yes. Yeah, I will do. Excellent.
Everybody doing things. And there's groups in Ireland, there's groups all over the world that say yes more.
Yes, you have to get into the habit of it.
And letting people support you and reaching out and saying to people, like paddleboarding, I don't know the first thing about it, but I interviewed a woman and it's stirred my interest and I really want to do it. So now I will say, anybody out there want to teach me, you know, and that's how it goes, and you get your adventures.
Absolutely. Excellent. I love that. I love that very much indeed. Listen, I am so delighted to have had you on today. This has been a really, really wonderful discussion, and I could talk to you for ages about this. I really could. I just, do you have a book coming out? Have you got any kind of, I
write a blog at the moment.
Write a blog, yes.
And siobhanshevoff.blogspot.com.
And that's where you put most of your articles up, is it?
Yeah, that's where they're all going.
Lovely.
I am in the process of writing a book. I've then got to find an agent or a publisher. That's the thing. I've not got anybody saying to me, write the book for me. But I'm in the middle of writing a book about my experience being out on the road in the pandemic, because it's not been easy. I set off saying my plan is to have no plan. I'm going to go out there. And I've been stuck in a field, one lockdown for 4 months, and I've been stuck in a field here for 4 months. And that has made me have to really reflect on what I'm doing. But I'm still not to be beaten by the pandemic.
I think it might be time to focus on that book now.
Yeah,
use that time, you know, because that will be, I can't wait to read that. You've got so much to say, and you've got so much that you can coach people on, and you seem to have this knack for connecting with the right people, and that is a knack. That is a gift. And I'm sure that your presenter and your researcher and producer experience is all coming to the fore again. So, you know, let's just hope that we can create this wave to counter the anti-aging, message on Facebook, because I think you're absolutely right. We've got to go pro-age.
Pro-age.
So much on my mind as well.
Aging and enjoy it and just enhance our aging. But if there's anybody out there that's interested in doing a book with me, let me know, because I'd want them to contact me.
Oh, I know. I from the point of view of proofreading.
Yeah.
I know somebody I can put in contact with you. I definitely know someone I can put in contact with you, and I will do. Right. Listen, Siobhan, I'm so delighted to have spoken to you. I hope we keep in contact, because I want to keep, I want to definitely get behind you, and if you could get behind me, it'd be great too. Loved talking to you. This is really very much an issue of the moment. From my perspective, 56, I've just finished the menopause, and I am amazed that the energy does come back if you feel as though it'll never come back, which is exactly how you feel when you've got menopause.
Yeah,
it does come back. You know, your brain does clear again. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and people like Siobhan and myself and Tracy and so many other people, we all know this. So get in contact. Follow their blogs, follow them on Instagram, follow them on YouTube, and you'll be surprised at the amount of support there is out there for you. Siobhan Daniels, I'm so happy to have met you virtually.
I loved chatting to you. Really loved it.
Really
I'm going to go for a walk now.
Yes, same here. Definitely do with one. Listen, we will love you and leave you. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.